Good evening, everyone. Before proceeding, it's a very humble request for everyone to please keep their phones on silent mode. Welcome to our Breakaway session by Zscaler on the topic Securing Transformation Through Zero Trust. We have with us here Mr. Sandeep CV. He has over 17 years of experience and excels in collaborating closely with strategic customers to address their business challenges and guide them through their digital transformation journeys. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, team, for the introduction. All right, so I think we have a hard stop at around 5:40. It's max 30 minutes. What we do, I don't want to bore you with too many slides. I'll keep the slides as less as possible. I'm sure you were there in the main stage event as well. I'm sure most of you were there. So I don't want to repeat the slides. I want to keep it. Maybe if possible, let's try to make it interactive. I'm sure it will be a good learning for me as well, because we have a lot of customers from different verticals. I see fintech spaces, I'm sure medias are there, I'm sure BFSI environments are there. I'm sure it's a mix of verticals what we have. It will be a good learning to have, and please feel free to share your experiences as well. As I said, I'll introduce myself. I've been with Zscaler for the last 1 year, moreover with the cybersecurity industry for the last 18 years, but with Zscaler working as a solution architect or a transformation architect for key strategic accounts. So I'll not get into details about what we do. I'm sure most of you would have heard about Zscaler as a company. Anyone have not heard about Zscaler? Yes, no? No, right? So, okay, so I'm sure all of you know about that, so I don't need, from a company intro point of view, you don't need anything. So I just want to pick on, I'll keep as one single slide. We'll discuss more on that. Share your use cases if you have any. I'll try to share from our perspective what we see across the industry. That's something which I want to do. And let me quickly move to one single slide. That's all we'll discuss. I showed this during the main stage, but I just want to build this stage for you, or slides for you. Okay. So again, from our point of view, I think a lot of customers here, Zscaler customers, I'm sure a lot of the customers we are in discussions as well. But interesting part, what we have seen is, especially for me in the last 1 year and previous industries also, the concept of zero trust, I know it's been very widely discussed today. Every events if you see, or every vendors if you see today, everyone talks about zero trust. Everyone has a different angle of zero trust. I think that's the beauty of this, right? So I may be a Zscaler today, I have a different version. Another vendor may have a different version. I'm sure it will be extremely difficult from you as a customer saying that how to pick up the right version, right, or what to implement within my company. That's something which you'll have always thought through. But it's more about what is aligning to your organization, or what is being aligning to your market. That's what matters the most. And from your key stakeholders' point of view, I'm sure you take a business call. At the same time, technology is something which gets automatically attached to that, but the business call is something what you take in terms of prioritizing things, what goes in first, what goes in next, etc. So from our point of view, what we have today solving for customers, it is in 4 different areas. Again, as I said, let's talk about workforce, what you see on the left-hand side. So today, I know it could be a regulated industry, or could be an open enterprise kind of an environment where it's much more flatter environments. Today, the most, I would say, the key asset what every company want to safeguard is an identity, right? All of you agree with me there, right? This could be your asset, this could be my personal identity or your corporate identity. That is something which everybody wants to safeguard. While there are identity-based solutions, that's again not getting into the product side of things. There is a different way in which we can secure identity. But our take is, in case what is the business case what we have today? Every employee, or as I said, this could be an internal employee, or let's say if you're a banking, you have a third-party developers connecting to your environments. Could be an enterprise where have a third-party managing my infrastructures. I have classic case in manufacturing, what I've seen, where a lot of contractors are managing my IT systems or OT systems. I have to give them access. There's no other go. So workforce is very critical, irrespective what kind of a workforce it is. It's very important that how do we secure those workforces when you are, end of the day, accessing your critical business applications. Internet applications, we are not bothered, because that is something by default it's secured. We believe that is secured. Or if you take any SaaS-based applications today, email, classic email, I'll not name the vendors, you know the vendors. We assume that obviously that infrastructure has to be secured, and that's why we went with a SaaS-based model. I'm sure all of you are using that. But internal applications or your business applications is the key. Most of you may have your ERPs or your core banking still on-prem kind of an environment, right? That's not gone on cloud, maybe due to different reasons, compliance reasons, let's park that aside. But that is again a critical asset or a critical application which you want to safeguard. Now, one way what we have done is, what is the best way to do this? Saying that I want my applications to be accessed by everybody, but let's not go back to the COVID days. I think we have discussed enough about that. Let's not go back there. But today, applications, the state of the matter is, apps has to be available at any point of time. This could be a mobile application. You're a bank, right? So I have an application on my phone. The moment I touch my application, my banking is done. I may be another, let's say, trading kind of a platform where I just touch off an application, I do that, this thing. Or could be an internal application where this could be a landing page for, let's say, companies, saying that this is one single portal where all of your employees can land onto. From there, you latch onto your HRMS tools, your paychecks, or your leave applications, or anything for that matter. That's a critical business application, one critical application, you can call it as. We have heard the term crown jewels. It's a market term which has been there. But if you ask any companies, can you name me the top 5 crown jewels for you? Maybe companies which are much more process driven, much more regulated, I'm sure you'll be able to pick and say that this is my 5 applications for me. But otherwise, it becomes extremely difficult for a company to tell me what is exactly is my crown jewel. Why? Because today, let's take an example again, an ERP. ERP could be very critical for me, but that application is something, yes, which we are exposing to an external world, but there could be another subset of, let's say, a couple of key applications which are interconnected. That automatically becomes a key applications for me. This could be a database, or this could be a front-end web server, let's say xyzbank.com, or let's say infrastructure.com, whatever, right? But internally, there could be many apps which is talking to each other for that. So we cannot pinpoint, we are not able to pinpoint saying that this is the only critical application what I have, because of a lot of API connectivities. Cloud world is all about APIs, correct? So there are multiple connectivities and everybody becomes a critical asset as well. And so that's where the workforce comes into play. What we want to ensure is, at any point of time, your employees or third parties or contractors or anyone for that matter, touching your key business applications, it has to have a secure nature. This could be over internet, this could be a SaaS application, this could be an on-prem application or a cloud application for that matter. That has to be taken care of. And what we did here is, today when customers started adopting zero trust kind of a model in our world, I'm sure there are, as I said, multiple versions of zero trust. What we intend to do is, what we helping companies to do is, how can we make those applications completely invisible to an employee? So let's say I will not know where my CBS is running today. Right? I may be sitting inside a branch, but I will not have no clue that which data center is having a CBS from a banking world. If it is a manufacturing segment, I may be running my ERP plus on-prem. But customers need not know, employees need not know, or your contractors need not know where it is residing. So the apps has to be completely hidden from the environment or from an adversary perspective. And that's what we have done from the platforms. What you see on the right-hand side is basically a private access. Secure private access is basically a mechanism where you can bring in all your critical applications behind one single, I would say, a perimeter layer. So we call it as an exchange point. It's more a naming convention from our side. It's called ZPA. It's called Secure Private. I'll not talk product, but it's all about the intent here is, how do we bring in all those applications behind one single guy, where nothing is visible. I can see only that particular person, nothing behind that. What is happening behind that? I maybe have no servers there, or I may be moved everything to an on-prem, or maybe moved to another CSP, doesn't matter. There is no way that we want to give any visibility to any employee for an adversary where that apps resides. So we've been successful, and thanks to a lot of customers who have taken that thought. I'm sure in the verge of implementing as well, but I'm sure you'll be thinking on the same lines. And there are different ways and means to do that. I'm not saying everything has to be like a golden rule, right? It cannot be. For example, internet-facing websites, your banking, let's say landing page, let's say accessbank.com, for example, right? Or let's say mahindra.com. So those are internet-facing websites. That's something which we cannot hide. That's meant to be public, right? But there are different ways where you can still secure those applications from the other world. Secondly, let's say if I talk about a mobile application today, and if I'm launching a mobile application from my phone, there are a lot of checks and balances what we can do from an end device point of view. So that's something which your developer team or your application team would have taken care to have some security controls, that whenever he's launching a mobile application connecting to my data center or to an application which is the real application behind, there is a way of secure connectivity. That's something which they would have taken care of. There are a lot of technologies like RASPs where you can look at from an endpoint perspective. But we have also looked at in that area, and today I think I'm also proud that we have been helping one of the largest banking environments, where if you're launching a mobile application from your phone, and if you're connecting to that particular website of that bank, that channel from your phone all the way till that application which is there, hosted anywhere, doesn't matter. That channel is also taken care internally. So we also build an SDK kind of a model. It's called Software Development Kit, or an APK, you can call it as, which is getting, I would say, stitched along with your APKs, your application APKs. So you have an application, customer-facing application, you launch that application. Whenever you do the coding, you can attach our APKs or SDKs along with that. You're launching it. The same zero trust principles is applied at the mobile level. So that's something which we did for a very large bank as well. I'm sure we'll be also spreading that in other areas. So workforce, I'll just take one more point here, which is on the VDI side of things, or a VPN side of things. It's more a technology side of things, but what we feel is today, VPN, I'm sure all of you may be using VPN kind of a technologies, and it's not going away. While I can make a statement that VPN is no more needed, but still there are many environments which is still running on VPNs. Maybe a specific use case what you have. But today you won't need, if you have an environment like this where I can give you a secure internet access at the same time as secure private access, why do we need a kind of a VPN for an infrastructure to come in? Because end of the day, I need a client, I need a connectivity, I need a VPN gateway, I need a VPN concentrator, land that particular user back to your data centers and then give them access. Which means you are logically or virtually making that user land at your respective data centers. That's a classic VPN case. You don't need that because you don't know the apps where they are, right? As I said, I don't have to know where my connectivity is. So that's something which we have been replacing a lot. A lot of customers have moved away from the VPN world. Classic use cases are there. I don't deny that. But classic use cases are there. But a lot of customers today are not using any kind of a VPN world. One, because from a connectivity challenge, what I said. Second thing could be from a vulnerability point of view also. Today you have hardwares. So I'm sure, let me just have an open thought. Do you still feel that in your environments you should have a rack and stack kind of a models? Or do you feel that it's a cloud-based approach is much more easier? What could be your version? A hardware stack is much more easier to manage, or do you think cloud is easier to manage? Cloud is easier. It depends. Exactly. So, say that again, sir. Sorry, say that again. I missed you.
Yeah, I mean, it's depend on the context.
Yes.
Basically, use case, whatever you are going to solve is different and done.
Correct.
See, I think it also depends upon what sort of infra you are using and what sort of tools you are using. See,
Yes.
the tools that you use for doing an on-prem maybe visibility will not work good with cloud. And the vice versa is also true. What works good in cloud doesn't work
On on-prem, yeah. Correct. So I think you touched upon a very nice point on the visibility side. I think that's critical. That's the reason when I'm talking about this, anything what is happening I'm talking about from a workforce point of view right now. So anything happening from a workforce, if you have a single channel where I can get some good visibility, right? Saying that, okay, what are you accessing? Where are you connecting from? What are you ending up accessing? Mechanism of access is irrelevant. For me, its end goal is what is relevant for me. And for that, I may not need a VPN kind of a channel, but yes, as Hilal sir said, my business case is different, right? So my business case demands a VPN. Let's say most of the classic case, what I've heard is VoIP connectivity, right? So I have a voice over IP kind of an environment, or mine is a BPO kind of an environment where that needs connectivity, which is a classic non-zero trust, or it's never built for a zero trust kind of a model. Voices was never built for a zero trust kind of a model, right? Because you have to have a clear visibility who is the user or what is IP it is connecting from. So that has been also solved today. I think from our perspective, we can also bring in voice as a fabric behind an exchange point like what we see.
But that UDP piece of it is solved now.
That is solved now. Yes, that is solved. So we call it as network presence in our world, but that's something which has been solved. So that's from the user's point of view, but feel free to stop me, okay? On the cloud side, I'm sure there are a lot of born-in-cloud companies here. And I'm not, from our perspective, I'm not talking out from a cloud security angle, because cloud security is a very large portfolio, right? In terms of what I'm running on the cloud, what applications we have on the cloud, how do we secure that there is a best practices which is done on the cloud. So that's a very large vertical. I'm not talking from a cloud security point of view. What I'm referring back from, which is attaching back to the platform, what we are solving, is any kind of a internet exit. For example, let's say you have 100 workloads on cloud. Out of those 100 workloads, I'm sure all of those workloads would need maybe a regular patching, right, or regular updates. We do phone updates, we do, right? On the applications also, I'm sure you'll have a window for every updates or patches to happen, which means, so I'm again coming back from an application or a workload perspective. Again, as I said, there is a need for every environments or every workloads or applications to connect back to the internet, get some latest updates, have it secured from an applications point of view. But what typically happens is, if you have a cloud infrastructures, normally what I've seen is, again, as I said, born in cloud customers, or maybe the way it is, I'm going from cloud from day one, I may have a different kind of architecture built on the cloud. But typical case what you've seen is, securities usually follows the data center model. Right? I have a firewall on cloud, I have an IPS on cloud, I have a DDoS solution on cloud, right? On the cloud security, maybe I have a CNAP kind of a platforms, which is covering much more larger areas and that. So from our perspective, when I say cloud as such, how do we apply zero trust principles? How do we apply zero trust principles from a workload point of view? Which means I have a workload which is in AWS today, which is talking to a workload in Azure. Let's say we spoke about APIs. So cloud to cloud connectivity, can we ensure same zero trust principles for that? Today we can, right? From a cloud workload to an internet perspective, you are trying to do an update. You're trying to connect to the external world. Why do we need a firewall for that, right? Inbound, yes, I access because your internet facing applications may be behind a firewall, maybe behind a WAF kind of a platform, which is fine. But for egress, which is from your workloads, I'm talking about only egress, nothing ingress, right? From the egress point of view, you don't need a security stack because anyway you're doing security on the cloud. You just have to plug in that workload traffic or maybe whatever is coming from that particular workloads, push it back to the same exchange point what we have been serving for customers because your security is become consistent there. Cloud workload, egress point of view, cloud workload talking to another cloud workload, you can have the same zero trust exchange or the fabric what you're seeing on the screen. Security policy for your company, same, exactly the same, right? So that's from the workload part what you're looking at. We are also slightly moving towards another areas where we are also trying to do segmentation within the cloud. Cloud, I think it's much more in a slightly different nature. It's already been segmented, but we are also trying to bring in much more segmentation within the cloud fabric, which means east-west within the cloud. I have one VPC or a one VNet or a one data center. If you look at, it's called as a DC as a cloud. So between those applications, can we also do some kind of a segmentation? I don't want app 1 to talk to app 2 within the same environment, right? So maybe it's talking to each other, need to talk to each other, but directly I don't want them to talk to each other. So we're also moving in that direction where we can also put in some controls from a workload point of view. In terms of IoT, OT, one quick question. In your environments, do you have a large OT environment, IoT environments? Not sure on the verticals, but yes, sir, you have. How about others? Okay, so maybe it's a different environment. So one question to you, sir. From an IoT point of view, what level of visibility do you get? I don't want you to tell specifics about your company, but overall from your approach point of view, IoT, do you think you have enough visibility? What IoTs are? Where are they running? What is the new, let's say, for example, a new device which has come into your environment? Do you get a full-fledged visibility today across? Maybe just a thought.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we have not covered everything in OT through
Yeah.
fully.
Okay.
Whatever we have visibility. Otherwise, why do we have?
Absolutely. Great.
We're not on a single platform, we're on multiple platforms.
Makes sense.
We need to be consolidated.
Makes sense.
Whatever we have.
You have visibility. Okay, that's nice because this is the problem statement or a business case issue what you have seen that I may have an asset inventory of let's say 100 IoT devices, could be CAMs or whatever, right? But tomorrow, let's say there is another 50. I opened up a new campus, I ordered another 50 more, right? Or maybe I am in an expansion phase, I have acquired a new company, they also have another asset inventory coming in. So today to monitor those IoT kind of infrastructures becomes slightly tricky. But so you're saying?
Why I told what I told is because IoT sensorization didn't happen 20 years ago.
Yes.
It was all in the last 4, 5, or 6 years.
Absolutely. You're right.
And we all understood that what the importance of getting visible.
Correct. You're right. Absolutely right. I think one of the best practice what everybody is doing is from a segmentation from an IoT world because I don't want IoT to touch my critical infra at all. Right? There is no need for them to talk to my critical infrastructures. Maybe between devices it's another use case, but I don't want them to connect back to my infra at all. So it's a fully isolated kind of an environment. But still, as I mentioned on the main stage, IoT by default is never designed for security. It is designed for a purpose from a connectivity or from an internet connected world point of view, but it's never designed to run security principles. So if you can also put in some level of security there, yes, visibility first part, that is key. Once that is there, can we also put in some IoT level controls, saying that what is this IoT traffic all about? Whether it is a printer traffic, could be a camera traffic. What is the protocol does it talk to? Are you running a SCADA kind of an environments? What is the protocol does it talk to? Which means technical details of those particular platform could be an IoT or an OT. That's something which we want to give for customers. We have been giving that visibility. What we also added as an add-on layer, especially from an IoT or an OT, or let's say take IT versus an OT. Any manufacturing segments here? Oh, okay, so you're from that side. Yes. Yes, correct. Okay, so classic case. So again, what we have seen is from an OT fabric. Today, OT devices can talk, right? We were talking to one of the automobile industry. We just met them last week. Electric factories, what they're producing. So what they're saying is, we have a large number of OT devices, but today there is no segmentation built in for OT devices. But today, let's say I have a vendor which is managing my OT platforms. Let's say I have an ABB or let's say Siemens or anyone for that matter, right? Managing that OT infrastructures. Now, there is no visibility for me that what that third party person would access, because he would land onto an IT infrastructure, then access an OT infrastructure. But I don't have a good level of control today on that. Can you give me that control? That's first use case. Second use case is between OT devices, I want full-fledged isolation. Let's say if I'm a adversary which is landing onto an IT infrastructure, what do you have? Let's say it is an electric car manufacturing, for example. You have a base, page where a third-party contractor would land in. I land onto that page, get access to an OT device. Now, I could be a compromised user any day because I'm a contractor, right? I'm a third-party machine. This doesn't have any kind of a security policies there. So, but however, when you're connecting to a landing applications on the IT side and then subsequently talking to an OT world, can you bring in that containment there? That is something which you have solved. We call it as a browser isolation kind of a model, where if it is a web page kind of a environment where the user is landing in, we are giving them an isolated web page to work on. So it's a fully isolated web page container where you cannot copy paste anything. It's like a VDA controls. You could just think of from a VDA level controls, right? So that level of controls is what we can do on that. Between OT devices, we have also added device segmentation for OT, which means I classify every device as a silo. So I have 10 OT devices here. None of those OT devices can talk to each other. You are controlled with one single platform or one single gateway, which ensures that OT1 can talk to OT2 based on my principles, or otherwise default there is nothing. So OT segmentation is something which we've seen a lot today. Especially in medical firms, you will see a lot of IoT devices that is coming in. The fourth part, what I just spoke about, I give an example also on the B2B side of things. This is where the third parties, what I just spoke about, comes into play, or partners or contractors comes into play. Access is imminent in the sense you have to give that access for sure, but how do we put in those security controls so that there is no data exfiltration happening? There is no kind of a propagation which is happening within my LAN from that third party says. The last thing which I want to touch, I know we have another 10 minutes to go. The last thing which I want to touch is, if you see on the right hand side, we are also calling it out as an AI fabric. What does that mean is, today I think we have a session on data security also going ahead. Today, I think, I'm sure all of you will agree, data by default, it's the currency, right? So that's a by default statement. Anyone who possesses the large number of data, let's take an example, right? Apartments, what we say is classic day-to-day example. Let's say where we stay, we have MyGate application. Right, so the societies, what you see, you may have a MyGate application, or maybe in Calcutta, maybe different. But let's say if we take an application as such, I have an inventory of across users. I have an inventory of across communities. I have inventory of across what vehicles you have. I have an inventory of that data is very large. Actually, we think that it's just a entry-exit kind of an app, but the data, what it possesses is very large. Forget the food ordering companies. That's leave it, right? The amount of data, what they process is very large. Fintech's world, it's a different world altogether. So from our point of view, what I'm trying to relate here is, from Zscaler's world, it's very important that whenever customers land onto a common fabric like this, I should have a good visibility in terms of what data it is. At the same time, data privacy has to be taken care. But with that data, whatever is flowing through the particular cloud, can I also build some intelligence so that I can give back to a customer saying that, hey, we understand that your risk factor today is let's say 10. Or let's say 100, which means there are 5 different gaps what we see based on the intelligence what we get from this traffics what we see on the cloud. These are the 5 things which you have fixed it correctly. There are 5 things which we see there is a gap. You can solve it maybe fine-tuning with your existing technology partners, We are not saying rip and replace, right? That's not the intent. You can fine tune with your existing technologies, or there is another area where we can help you there. So we are trying to understand the current state and what are the gaps what we see and what is the desired state which we can plug this to fill that particular gap. So that AI fabric, what we are seeing, we are moving into slightly a risk management space as well. It was, if you hear Zscaler, you will see more about connectivity, secure web access, private applications is what you typically hear. But there is a lot of movement happening towards risk management, so that for the SOC team, we want to give that additional intelligence. You have platforms, you have solutions, which is already there, I understand. But from our world point of view, we want to give additional intel from the data what we see on the Zero Trust Cloud today. So that's where that fabric has been built in. So a classic example what we are trying to solve here is, let's say a vulnerability management practice. All of you have vulnerability management practice. Maybe you have a monthly practice or a weekly practice or a 6 months practice, whatever we have. And today, any vulnerability management tools, what you're having, right? Let's say you're talking about Qualys, well-known product, right? Tenable, well-known products. End of the day, you're trying to ingest so much of data to that vulnerability machine, and it actually gives back and tell you saying that these are the top 10 vulnerable applications in your company. This is the area what you need to look at. But it just, that vulnerability data alone is not enough, is what we are saying. Because tomorrow, if you start integrating with all of your platforms, what you have, a standard enterprise may have around 30 products, 30 security products, right? Now, are we taking intelligence from all the 30? And maybe, may not be. But tomorrow, let's say if you have a mechanism where I start taking intelligence from those stack what you're running, could be a cloud also, doesn't matter. Whatever stack which you're running. At the same time, I'm also adding to the intelligence which your vulnerability scanners are giving. Let's say Qualys or a Tenable, as I was saying. It becomes much more easier saying that this particular tools tell me these are the 5 things to fix. But what I see is there is another application which has been identified by your EDR platforms or an XDR platform or a cloud security platform, saying that which is also vulnerable nature, but that is internet exposed. So 5 is very critical for sure, but the one which is internet exposed has to be fixed first, not the 5, because your exposure rate is very high in that case. So we are trying to bring in a unified vulnerability management where VM is by default the source, but at the same time we are also trying to ingest third-party information, so it becomes much more relevant from a prioritizing the risk at the same time an asset inventory point of view also. That's what the AI fabric is all about. It's more a works in the happening. There are platforms today, but we are trying to ingest much more data so that you will see much more new things coming in from a Zscaler world. That's it I have. I have another 5 minutes before the panel discussion. Please feel free to open any questions. Otherwise, we have 10 minutes early.
Query on data protection. So when you say data protection, what all is covered in data protection and how are you doing that?
Yeah. So today we are touching key areas. One is at the endpoint level. One is on the network level. One is on the email level. So these are the 3 areas what we are touching on. Endpoint, it's more a DLP control at endpoint. Right. So today, if you want to do a DLP at the endpoint level, that is something which we have started. The only, I would say the key beauty of that is it's all single agent which is built. So one single agent for connectivity to your internet private applications, the same agent for your digital experience monitoring, the same agent for your DLP controls. So one agent, you don't need multiple agents. But endpoint DLP is one of the areas which we have invested on. I think there are good customers on that platform also today. That's on the endpoint side. On the network side, anything which is flowing through the fabric, if you want to put a network level controls, let's say I have a compliance today, right? Just ensure that none of this compliance kind of a documents goes out. You are a developer environment. So if somebody is trying to post your source code on your GitHub, let's say enterprise GitHub is allowed, personal GitHub may not be allowed. Enterprise ChatGPT is allowed, personal ChatGPT is not allowed, right? So how do you differentiate those things from a data protection point of view? That's something which we are also covering. Email, we have started monitoring Office 365 and Gmail traffic today, right? So let's say if you want to, there is an attachment which is going on your Office 365, which is matching a pattern, let's say source code pattern, or could be any other data patterns, what we can call it as, that is also controlled today. So main key channels where an exfiltration can happen, these are the 3. On the network, one more additional thing what you have heard is, maybe slightly more technical, there's something which you cannot block, which is DNS. Right? There is no way that you can block a DNS traffic from any company. That's a base of anything to work, right? So you want to access google.com, your DNS should work, correct? And that also is an easy channel for data exfiltration. So it may not be exactly a pattern use case, but that use case is more about how do we ensure that any traffic which is being pumped in through your DNS traffics. We hear it as DNS over HTTPS or whatever, right? There are many multiple technical terms. That is something which we can look at. The last point is from a B2B perspective. I spoke about isolating the browsers, right? Giving us isolated browser for a user or a third party to work, do their work. They can do their live works. The isolated browser will exactly work like a normal browsers. Absolutely no latency, nothing in terms of browsing, in terms of doing your work. You can do your offline work. You can edit documents, print documents, view documents, anything, right? What you want, you can allow that, but stricter controls, right? That's something is another data exploitation channel what you can look at.
And
All right.
risk management again, what all is covered there?
Yeah, risk management, first part is from a risk level of the company. So which means what is the org risk score? That's something which we collect from the statistics of these products, ZIA, ZPA, what we see. Based on that, we do an analysis and give you what is the risk scoring of the company today. That's one. Second thing I spoke about from a vulnerability management. We are not doing vulnerability management. There is a new term in the industry which is called as UVM, Unified Vulnerability Management, which is basically ingesting data from a VM tool as well. And then helping customers to prioritize what to focus first. Right? It's not just based on the vulnerability value, CVE 2024, that's not what you're looking at. That's something which a Qualys will give me. I don't have to do that. But what I'm saying, how do you prioritize which one to go first? That's a problem statement for any enterprises. So that we are solving there. The new area what we are coming up there is from in terms of can we predict a breach? But again, that requires a lot of intelligence. It sounds very interesting, but that needs a lot of intel from these fabrics, also from third-party sources, saying that I am seeing this trend in the last 30 days, but in this I feel in the next maybe 15 days or 20 days, I see a hit coming on this particular machine because that machine looks vulnerable for me. That is a prediction. So it's more an AI-based analysis what we are doing. Any further questions, team? All right. So if not, thank you so much once again for the time. Thanks for attending. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for joining us here today. We have a small token of appreciation from Zscaler and from INFOCOM side. Please make sure to collect it on your way out. Thank you all.